legalize it. No, I'm not talking about marijuana. I'm talking about weed. Hemp, to be exact. So I'm not talking about getting high, I'm talking about getting by and past the modern day of harsh chemicals and alternatives to fuels, oils, food, and textile materials. So you might have thought marijuana or getting high was the main focus point of the prohibition towards it, but it actually wasn't. So today, so this morning, I want to give you a brief history and its uses, and the prohibition and the current crisis we have today because of this fallacy. And in hopes that we could somehow, if it comes up in the future, to legalize the use of hemp. Now, the history starts, the earliest that we have is 8000 BCE, during the modern day of Taiwan, where they use it for food. Now, the seeds for food, because it yields a wide range of omega-3s and omega-6 proteins and fibers. And it's also the oldest known cultivated plant. Now, one of my favorite scientists of the 20th century, Carl Sagan, wrote in his book, The Dragons of Eden, in 1977, it would be widely interesting if in human history the cultivation of marijuana hemp led to generally to the invention of agriculture and hereby civilization. In 6000 BCE, the seeds were used as oil for food by the Chinese, even more so. And in 4000 BCE, they were creating their textiles, such as fibers and just clothing and such, and robes. Now, for the uses, the seeds of course yield omega-3s and 6 proteins. The hemp seeds can be used in products such as biodiesel, soaps, makeup products, and paint varnishes, and etc. The fibers, which are in the stalks of the plant, contain fibers that can replace things like fiberglass and even automobile frames, or not frames, but the skins of the car. In fact, Henry Ford created a prototype which he hammered away at the body of the car to show its strength, but it was never put into wider use. Also, manufacturers like Nike, Two-Star Dog, Indigenous Designs enjoyed their hemp products, which most of these companies are based overseas, so they get to acquire these products more easy. talking more about the stalks of the plant, that they could be used for paper, building textiles, oil absorbents, soil amendments, chemicals used in plastics and fuels, which can replace ethanol, methane, and co-firing with coal. In 1916, the USDA published a report called Hemp. Hemp is a paper-making material, which this is a renewable source of products that could even work with recycled plastic. So you could actually mix these together until all the plastic that we have recycled is no longer in its bins. Now, leading to from that, Prohibition was right around the corner because reefer madness in 1963 was produced by William Randolph Hearst and his associates, which he was the most powerful newspaper editor in the world at the time. Now, he wanted to create public hysteria by saying smoking marijuana led to rape of white women. He was trying to get the white vote, the white standing. And with this, he created this smokescreen with the DuPont family, which they were the family that supplied all the chemicals used in papers, oils, and what have you. So the DuPont family didn't want to go out of business because of hemp was going to be produced again like it was, and so they didn't want that to happen, and Hearst didn't want his paper company to go under. So he created this this easy fix, which was to outlaw it by saying, oh, marijuana is causing people to do these crimes and jump out of windows. Now, because of this, the current issues, leading to my last example or steps, is that now we have this this prohibition, which leads to crime syndicates and what have you to get the product to, or not the product of hemp, but marijuana across the borders. So we have drug wars, and also we have fossil fuels being used too much, and that creates a big mess. Cleanup. There's a lot of harsh chemicals used in all of our paints, all of our textiles, plastics, and so on. In conclusion, I hope this clarifies things and the use of hemp in history and its uses. Because we have a renewable source. It's not like oil where we could pump it out of the ground, and then there are ways to filter out the oil to make it clean again, but sooner or later we're not going to have clean oil. And so when it comes down to the future political debates, now this is aside from marijuana, this is about hemp. I hope that we could all get into this topic and maybe, hopefully one day, pass a vote. So use logic instead of fallacies, and and bring us back to the use of hemp like our Constitution was written on. Thank you.
So Emily, share your thoughts, please.
I thought the attention grabber was interesting, but I kind of got a little lost when you started to explain the thesis. And then with your examples or your reasoning, I wasn't really sure as to what you were trying to persuade us to. It just sort of seemed like a history of hemp or marijuana, and there were a couple of points in the beginning where you didn't, I don't think you cited some of your information, and towards the end I started to understand, what you were trying to persuade us to believe, but then again I got confused as to what you were talking about, if it was like whether you were for marijuana or hemp, or I wasn't really sure what the main point was, but so yeah, that's it.
Okay. I like the attention device, the phrasing thing. It's nicely turned, and then it sounds like you're going to go in a different direction on that, and I think that's fine. I think the phrasing of the propositional statement or the main claim was a little complicated. You lay out a structure that makes it sound like it's going to be an informative speech, and in fact it turns out that a substantial portion of the presentation is really more informative in nature than it is persuasive. I'd have to agree that I didn't hear a lot of source citations on this, and the discussion, for instance, of oils and chemicals and all those sorts of things, I need to have some kind of practical information about the amount that would be able to be provided by this. The notion that that there's some conspiracy by the newspaper industry and the chemical industry to suppress access to hemp because it's a threatening counter solution or alternative resource that would eliminate some of the things that are going on there. It smacks of paranoia, and I think it undermines the argument that you're making instead of building a cogent argument for the position that you're taking. Something that would show us, for example, how much of these oils could be produced in a certain amount of time in a certain amount of area, and how much of that oil, for instance, could be utilized for some of the things that you're talking about. That would be something that would be more convincing. Every time you start talking about one issue, it seems like you suddenly shift gears and things get mixed up quite a bit. So sometimes we're talking about the supplement of natural resources, sometimes we're talking about some health benefits, getting all the right omega proteins, for instance. Then we're talking about the, like I said, the conspiracy stuff, and it gets conflated with the consumption of pot for recreational purposes. Even though you start off saying that that's not really what you want to focus on, toward the end, that's you start talking about criminal enterprises getting involved in it, and the reefer madness kind of stuff that went on at one point. And make sure you get the years right on that. I think that was a little bit problematic also. It sounded a little bit late. The story about Ford having an apocryphal pot car someplace is a good example of something that ought to be cited. And there's just a whole bunch of these things that you present as if they are facts that I think you do need some citation on. and some of them are also making a little bit more inference, and you need more data to support those inferences. Presentation-wise, I think that you're quite hesitant sometimes. You feel a little uncertain as you're speaking. It needs to flow more smoothly. Your eye contact is limited because you are a little more script dependent than you want. I thought you had some natural gestures during the presentation, and it was, you used the time pretty well. You had some interesting visualizations, but you need to have a little bit more control of the content and know what it is that you're trying to say, and you just get drawn into a lot of other issues as you go along. All right, thank you.